Okay. Welcome to our Amud Yom Shir, Memches Amud Aleph, Shabbos Kodesh. Memches Amud, excuse me, Memches Amud Beis. We're Memches Amud Beis. Yeah. Memches Amud Beis. We are in the second line, okay? The second line, it's a new Inyan, it's a new concept, and therefore no need to have any previous information. It has to do with the previous sugya about things that are connected together, yeah? About what you considered as one item, what you considered as two items. But even if you missed yesterday's shir, you still are okay for now. The shir is le'ilun nishmas Avi Moiri, Menachem ben Akiva, ve'lashiduch hogun of all the children. Rami le Rabbi Yirmiyah le Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah is asking a Rami to Rabbi Zera. What's a Rami? Rabbi Yirmiyah is going to show us two Mishnayos that contradict each other. What's a contradiction? Tnan. This is to do with Tumah and Tara, but it's really easy. Tnan, yeah? It says in the Mishnah, Tnan, Shalal shel koivsin. Shalal shel koivsin means when you have a few items that are going to the kvisa, a few items that are supposed to be in the washing machine or back then in the river all together, and you have socks and you have shirts and you have skirts and all together, you don't want them to get lost in the river. What do? You tie them together. Yeah, you tie them together, or you put them together, you stitch them together, lishloil. Yeah, you basically somehow tie them all one next to the other, stitch them all one with the other, but it's only temporary, right? In other words, you have that for the kvisa. Later on, what happens? This goes to mommy's cupboard, that goes to daddy's cupboard, that's a socks, and that's a kippah, each one separate. The shalshela shel maftechos, you have keys, you have a few keys and a key ring together. Yeah, you have a lot of keys and a one key ring. So back then also, when you use the rings or whatever, for whichever reason you want the keys to be together, they're together. But when today we manage somehow without that, I don't know. But back then, when you need to use the key, you separate it from the other keys. I'm not sure why. Yeah. Now, the beged shutofu b'kilayin. Interesting. You have beged tofu b'kilayin, which means, let's say you have a beged, you have two pieces of fabric of wool, and they are stitched together with a thread of pishtan, of linen. That's quite common today too, because pishtan is a very good thread to tie with. It's very strong. What's a common denominator? A beged of kilaim, of course, you're going eventually to do what? To separate it. So all these things are stitched together only temporarily. But once for whichever temporary reason I had to have them together, I'm going to separate them. So now, what about Tumah v'Tara? Oh, so now, before we continue, let's imagine the following story, and I'll make it much easier for you now to save you trouble later. What happens when you have two pieces of, you have two bgodim? That's the case we're going to focus on. You have a lot of garments, clothing items, that are all tied together. And now, let's say a sheretz, a dead mouse, touched one shirt, and it's now temporarily on the same, let's say on the same ring, next to another shirt, touching it. So if those two shirts are considered as two separate items, what's a sheretz? Avatuma. What's a shirt? Is rishon l'tuma. A keli, which is rishon l'tuma, does not make the other shirt l'tuma at all. It only makes food or drinks sheni l'tuma. So the two clothing, when they're one next to the other touching it, the second one will not become tome, unless you consider them as one item. If you consider all the socks and all the shirts and all the undershirts and all the pants together as what? As one unit, because they're tied together, then if the sheretz touched one, is metame all the rest, because they're all one unit. That's a question. Are they considered as one unit or as many units? Says the Mishnah, chibur letuma, as long as they are what? As long as they are together, they are considered as one unit, and if one becomes tome, the other is tome as well. And sheyatchil lehatir, until you start unstitching, until you start, unstitching them one from the other. Then, when you do a maise mevatel maise in Tumah, once you do a maise, I'm unstitching, undoing, unraveling one from the other, then I'm showing that I'm not interested in them being together. Only then they'll be separate kelim, and therefore, if the sheretz touches one, the other will not be tome. Alma, that is to say, shelo b'shas melocha nami chibur. You see now that even when they're not in the same melacha, they're also chibur. What do you mean not in the same melacha? Here, the melacha is the laundry, which means when they are together, Yeah, in the laundry, in the washing machine, in the river, in the bowl, they have to be together. That's the whole idea. They're not going to float around. What about when they're after the laundry? They don't have to be together. They happen to be together, waiting for mommy to separate them. But they don't have to be together. They stayed there from the kvisa because nobody had time to deal with them. And still, even though they're not together in the same reason, they're not yet, the reason for them being together is not there anymore. They're still called one keli. Only when we'll do a ma'aseh to separate them will be 5 days later. Only then there'll be two kelim, not mitame one the other. That's one Mishnah. We promised a contradiction. We'll give you a contradiction. Vereminu. And yet we see another Mishnah from kelim. It says makel she'oso, or really she'oso u. Yad lekodom. Let's say you took a stick, and that stick is not really a fancy kli. It's a regular stick. Shel eitzim ba'alma. You took a stick from the forest, and you created a provisory, very improvised handle for the X. You have an X, a kodom. Yeah, you tie it not in a kavua way. Yeah, you're not setting them together. Yeah, you took some stick, you tie it somehow to what? To the piece of iron or metal, whatever there. So then what? Oh, now I want to ask you a question. A stick by itself, even if you designed it, is it mekabel tuma? No. Pshute kleetz. Very good. Tafte zayin amud aleph, yisot zayin amud aleph, pshute kleetz, and not mekabel tuma. Eitz is like sack. It has to have a recipient. Oh, so that stick by itself is not mekabel tuma. Why is it mekabel tuma when it's together with a cordon? Because we have the entire masechet at the end of Shas called yodois, which means when something is a handle for something, for a kli, it becomes tumah. So again, the same issue. If you look at the stick as of itself, as a separate unit, that stick is not mekabel tuma. If the stick is a handle for that X, for the hammer, then it's a yad, it's mekabel tuma. No. So do you or don't you consider it as a handle or not? Because it's done in a very improvised way. Yeah, you're now using it. Yeah, and eventually you're going to separate it. When you finish cutting all the trees in the forest, yeah, don't tell the green people. Then what? What happens then? Afterwards, you're going to throw away the stick. So says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, chibur l'tumah b'shas melocha. Oh, as long as it's doing the melocha while you're working in the forest and you are using it as a handle, then the handle is part of the thing of the what's his name, part of the X, and it's mekabel tuma. Shelo b'shas melocha loi, right? But when it's not b'shas melocha, yeah, the Gemara is medai. B'shas melocha in, shelo b'shas melocha loi. So you see, at the time of melocha, yes, shelo b'shas melocha loi, and that's a question. Why? Because you see, not like we said, right? Previously, we said by the kvisa that even when they are together, not b'shas melocha, they're metame each other. They're one goof, one body. Here with a stick, we say no. Once it is not b'shas melocha, then it's not metame. Even though they're together, they consider the separate because right now I don't need them to be together because they're not serving me for anything. It's a stira. Amar lei, answers the Gemara, no. So Rabbi Zera answered the Birmia Heilige, Hasam shelo b'shas melocha, Adam also lezol kol ben ha'etzim. As I told you, hey, I gave you a hint. In the cordon, when the cordon and the stick are not at use, what he usually does, welcome to the world of disposable. You know what he does? When that stick is not using him, is not helping him, is not useful for him, what does he do? He separates them. He throws the sticks among other sticks. There's so many sticks, disposable. And afterwards, next time he cuts the wood, he'll take new stick. So the stick and the metal piece, the blade, they're so temporarily together. Yeah, when they're together, not b'shas melocha, it's very temporary and very unimportant. I don't really need them to be together. That stick, I throw it away. I just happen not to throw it away yet, as opposed to, but here with the laundry, shelo b'shas melocha, namini chalei. Oh, here with the what's the names with the with the clothes. With the clothes, even shelo b'shas melocha, it's also good for me that they'll stay together as long as possible. So it's in my mind they should be together even when they're not being washed. Why? Of course. Let's say they get dirty together. Let's say they get dirty again. Yeah. If they get dirty again, I'll have the ability to wash them again. Why should I collect them, right? Right? Why should I collect them again and again? Right? They're out of the laundry, but maybe they're going to get dirty again. So I'd like them to be together. Only at the moment of really separating them and put them in different cupboards, it's different. But as long as I can, I'd like them to be together. It's all about machshava. Tumah is all about my idea, my mind. So let's summarize. So what did we say up until now? So those items that are not b'shas melocha, when you have two items tied together, stitched together, together, and they have to be together when they're washed, on when they're cutting the wood, of course it's one unit, right? When I separate them, of course it's not one unit. Even if I started separating them, they're considered two separate units. The question is, what happens when they're together? But not b'shas melocha. So in the laundry, they're bedafka together. I want them to be together as much as possible because I may need a new laundry before it made it to the cupboard to get dirty again. And therefore, what? I want them to be together. I want them there. So they're one kli. But the axe and the blade, no. Yeah, I don't need them to be together at all. No, b'shas melocha. I'm going to throw it away anyway. It's a throwaway thing. It's nothing, garnished, and therefore not mekabel tumah. Right. Now we're going to see another concept from a Mishnah. The Surah matnu lo lehashmaita. The following sugya has two different sources. In Surah, in the yeshiva of Surah, matnu lo lehashmaita mishmei Rav Chizda. In Surah, they learned this sugya on behalf of Rav Chizda. In Pumbedisa, matnu mishmei Rav Kahana. In Pumbedisa, they taught this following sugya, which we're going to see on behalf of Rav Kahana. You know, Rav Kahana was a Kohen who lived in Bovel. Yeah, the Amri la Mishmei de Rove, and some say that Pumbedisa they taught it from on behalf of Rove. What are they saying? Man tana ho milsa de omer abonon kol mechuber lo hareu kamoyu, which means what's the source? Which Tana? We're going to see two Tanoim now. Which one of the following Tanoim is the source for that Rabbanan said? What did we just say? That when two things are stuck together, even temporarily, but everyone agrees, right, that at least b'shas melocha, right, they have one sock and another sock. Today they also have it sometimes, right? The socks that people tie them together sometimes for the kvisa. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you have the two things together, tied together, they're one, right? Who told you that concept? It's really two kelim. How do you know that if they're temporarily together, they're considered as one kli? Who's the Tana that follows that? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Meir, it's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is the one that says, he's the one who says that. That's none. Rabbi Meir is the one that tells you that even if things are stuck not 100% well together, they're considered as one item. That's none. Chaval didn't bring the picture. I was going to bring the picture because I have a picture book. Chaval, but I forgot. I was in a rush. So I'll describe it. Now, the story is as follows. Imagine yourself, imagine, close your eyes and imagine. You have a kira, right? A kira is made out of cheres. So it's important to know. Yeah, it's like right? It's like a box kind of thing, or two of them together. Inside you put a pot, and top you can put a pot, right? And there are like two kind of, cheres boxes attached together. Now, what do we say? Some kiras are super duper kira. They're more fancy and more advanced. And outside the kira, there are other compartments for extra use, ultra modern, to use for other things besides cooking. So imagine yourself, and I saw the Ritva really helped me. Betit kol shehu. Those three compartments, those three little vessels made out of cheres, are connected to the outside of the kira with not the best chibur. They're connected with a little bit of tit, a little bit of, like mud, like plaster. They're connected there. They're connected, but they quite easily can be removed. So it's like they're together, not forever necessarily. So now, what are they? Beis hapach. You have one compartment to put inside oil. Why the oil? Obviously, the kira is hot. You want to put some frozen oil to warm up. Beis hatavlin. Oh, you want to have your spices right next to your cholent that's cooking. Beis haner. You have a candle. Yeah, you like today, right? We have lights in the oven. They had a candle next to the kira. Shebekira. Oh, the question is as follows: are they considered as part of the kira, or aren't they considered part of the kira regarding Tumah V'Tara? So we say mitamin b'maga Ve'en metamin be'avir divrei Rabbi Meir. Let me explain. Says Rashi as follows, and I saw Rashi and actually so many other Meforshim in the Mishnah. I checked the Mishnah in Keli, but it's like this. How does kli cheres become Tomeh? Anybody wants to remind me? Kli cheres becomes Tomeh if you touch it from the outside? No. Only ma'aviro inside. Either you have a sheretz that's hanging in the middle of the air, mid-air in the middle, or you have, let's say, sheretz that touches the inside walls or the inside floor. So now, what happens if, let's say, either the kira, the main part of the kira, or the small compartments have tumah that was metamed them? Do we say that they're one unit? Let's say Beisa Tavlin. Beisa Tavlin, a little dead sheretz, or even kadosha, which is very small, boom, entered the Beisa Tavlin. Do we say magic, everything becomes Tomeh, or no? Just Beisa Tavlin is Tomeh. And let's say it was metamed the kira. You say only the kira is Tomeh, or the outside compartments also Tomeh? Well, we say it depends. I'm reading again. Beis hapach beis hatavlin beis haner shebakira metamin b'maga ve'en metamin be'avir divrei Rabbi Meir. Says Rashi. Metamin b'maga. I'm not saying it inside. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. Yeah. Metamin b'maga means if the sheretz came inside, yeah, or the tumah, and touched it from the inside, then one is metamin everything else. But if it was just hanging in mid-air, tumas avir ain't metamin be'avir. Let's say it was metamed, there's a sheretz hanging in the middle of the air of Beis HaTavlin. It's only metamed Beis HaTavlin, but not the rest of the kira. Very funny, right? Oh, that's what Rabbi Meir says. But we do see that Rabbi Meir, at least partially, Rabbi Meir holds of what? That if something is metame one part, even though it's not so well connected, it's also metame everything else. That's Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir seems to be more in line with what we said. We're going to explain soon. The Rabbi Shimon metaher completely. What's metaher? Not completely. If it came into the air or even touched the inside of Beisa Pach or Beisa Tavlin or Beisa whatever, that compartment will be Tomeh, but the rest won't be. B'chlal. He views each one separately completely. So now, before we continue, Rashi and Tosfos both say that really this is the source, as we said, to the concept of the two clothes, the two garments that are tied together. Yeah, that's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir would tell us, soon we're going to see how, that too, just like there, the kira and the little compartment are one unit, or partially one, so too the two clothes are considered one unit. We'll only get the whole picture in a few lines from now. Frag the Gemara, as you were, I think, asking in your mind, the question is as follows. Rabbi Shimon understand. Kasova, lav kekira damu. Rabbi Shimon has a clear line. Rabbi Shimon says it's not kira, meaning the small compartments that are not really part of the oven, they're not part of the oven, finished. If the oven is tomeh, doesn't affect them. They're tomeh, the oven is not tomeh. Ela Rabbi Meir, I don't understand. If you consider all the small compartments as kira, then even if you touch just mid-air, they should all be tomeh. And if they're not like kira, then they shouldn't be, then maga should make a difference either, right? If they're not one unit, so why do I care that one was touched all the way in the bottom, all the way in the inside, and touched it inside? So what? Answers the Gemara, and that's going to be now the big line. Wow. Really, midoraisa, the two things that are attached are not one unit. And it's true about kira, and it's true about also those two socks or whatever, the kvisa, they're not considered as one midoraisa. So what's the story? The Rabbanan the gazru behu. Rabbanan made the gzera that if one is tomeh, so to the other one should be tomeh too. It's gzera the Rabbanan. Frag the Gemara, how did you help me? So what? Right? What do you mean? If they're geyser, if Chachami made a gzera that they are one unit, the kira and the small compartments are one. If so, so if it only touched the air, who cares? A sheretz that touches the air before shapasuk, it's tomeh. So if it touched the air of the middle of whichever one, the other one should be tomeh. I just thought you're saying there is a gzera. If there's a gzera, apply the gzera all the way. Go all the way, all 9 yards. Why are you stopping in the middle? You only go as a b'maga, not b'avir. Answers the Gemara, the famous line that appears many times. We saw it in Daf Zayin Amud Aleph about clay. Says the Gemara, Avdu b'Rabbanan hekera Bingo, end of story. Which means we know that, as I told you back then, when Rabbana make a gzera about Tumah and say Tome, 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 you can't be too fru machmir in that direction. Why? Because then you can be over Yisod Daraisa. Let's say the sheretz touched, let's say the kira, right? And not the base of pach tavlin daner. Midoraisa, whatever is inside base of pach is not Tome, right? True. Let's say in Beis Hapach right now, Beis Tavlin, there is a tavlinim, there's pepper. Now I'm a very firm guy. I'm a kohen, and I have tavlin of truma. You're telling me now that midoraisa it's not tome, midorabanan it's tome. So if according to Rabbanan it's tome, they're telling me to burn the truma. The truma is supposed to burn. Midoraisa you're not supposed to burn it. So that's very risky because then Rabbanon are making over Yisr Torah. You can't just burn truma. Truma is kodesh. What are you supposed to do with it? You're supposed to be toilet. You're supposed to let it rot. You're not supposed to mafsid beidayim with truma. So Rabbanan always have to make sure that whenever they are geyser tuma on something, being strict on yes metame, make sure that people know that this entire gzer is just the Rabbanan. So people remember, if it's chulin, okay, you own now waste of money, you own keeping the Rabbanan. But if it's Tumah and Kochim, Rabbanan have no right to make the Tumah and Kochim go. People should burn them over an Isser. You're not supposed to burn the Tumah and Kochim. That's why Rabbanan always kept one kula to make sure that people remember. Oh, that's a Rabbanan. Because I remember the rabbi telling me when I asked him that it's only metame, how? By touching. Metame by hanging mid-air, it's not metame the other one. How come? Everyone's going to be like, eh? And the answer is going to be Darabanan. Darabanan, I'm not supposed to burn it ever, not even if it touches, only to be toilet and let it rot by itself. Toises. Now let's see Toises. Now the Avdu Rabbanan Nekera. Toises the Ramaschil Avdu Rabbanan Nekera. Yeah, towards the second Toises in the wide lines. The Gabe Shalosh Shel Koivsin. Here comes a question. Yeah. We just said that Shalosh Shel Koivsin is also the Rabbanon. And so B'Shalosh Shel Koivsin, when you have a few garments together, you also have to have what? You also have to have some kind of heker. It's only the Rabbanon. What is it? What's the heker? It's only the Rabbanon. Says Tosfos Ikanami Ekera. Ma she'enu chibur lehazo'o. Says Tosfos like this. When it comes to the two garments, they become tomeh together. You have two socks, one connected to the other, even when they're not in the laundry. A dead mouse touched this, everything is tomeh. All the socks and all the shirts and all the gufiot and all the tzitzits are all tomeh, right? So maybe people think it's the oraisa and they're going to burn the truma if it touches truma. No, we have a solution. What's the solution? The Mishnah already said then, when it comes to hazo, let's say tomeh tumah mace. That was touched by a mace. It's not enough to go to mikveh. What do you have to do? You have to be mazeh, you have to sprinkle mei pora aduma, mechatas, on the items. And there, each one needs a separate azor. Each one needs a separate azor. So remember that they're not really one kli. If I know they're not really one kli, I'll remember it's the Rabbanon. I will not burn the truma. So why didn't it suggest the same solution here? Continues to says, lo shayach ha hekera, the lace behazor. By kira, you cannot have the heker of they'll become tomeh together, but they will not become toher together. Why not? What's kira made out of? Said many times. No klicheres. And it's with the dafil oilom. Klicheres is no tahara. Klicheres is no tahara. Klicheres, the only solution is give it a bang over the head or make a big hole and finish. Send the missile from, I don't know, from Israel. Yeah, that's the thing. And therefore, because there is no hazon, there's no purification system, so Chachamim had to find another trick, another way to make sure you know that it's not 100% serious tumah. So they made the heker, it only becomes tumah together through maga and not through avir. So people should remember this is class B tumah, only the Rabbanon, so you don't come to burn tumas and kochim by that. No. Continues the Mishnah more and more. It's a brayso, I think. I'm not sure actually. The previous one I actually saw inside. This one I didn't. Misporos shel prokim. You remember somebody asked it earlier on. Remember in Daf Tesamot base we spoke about what? What's misporos? Scissors. You have scissors. Back then the scissors were not like today the misparaim. How would they function? He took two knives, connect them together, and you cut someone's hair, right? And then what? But afterwards, you take the two knives and you separate them. That's the old days scissors. Yeah, two knives are connected and then disconnected. You finish the haircut. Now you need that each knife separately, one meaty, one milky. Okay, so now Tano is special cooking. The Ismail shel Rehitni. Ismail shel Rehitni, Rashi says Rehitni is about shaving, or Rehitni is basically you have like a wooden handle, a big wooden handle with a groove, and in the groove you put a blade of metal inside, inserted inside, and with that you smoothen things for carpentry. You smoothen, yeah, you make it smooth, you make it nice. So now the Ismail also, sometimes it's together and sometimes it's disconnected. Chibur letuma, ben chibur la'azo. Similar to what we said, become tome, we're only machmir, very frum. Chibur letuma, when it becomes tome, and let's say the tuma touched one of them, the other one becomes tome. Ben chibur la'azo, when you make it tahor, each one needs a zo separately. And the question is, manafshach, what do you mean? Make up your mind. Are they really connected, even with the Rabbanon, whatever you want to call it? Make up your mind. If it's chibur, if they're called one unit, right? Why do you need a zo separately on each one? The one unit. Ilav chibur, and if you don't view them as one unit, so why do you say if one becomes tome, the other one becomes tome? Yeah. Why only machmir to connect, to make them one body for Tumah, but you see them as separate items for Hazah, requiring separate Hazahs? What's the story? Omar Rove, therefore Rove answers. Dvar Toiro, again it's Doraisa de Rabbanon, same idea. Dvar Toiro, Midoraisa, Bishas Maloch Chibur, Ben Tumah Ben Lazah, which means, as long as, let's take the scissors, as long as the barber works with the scissors, yeah, Midoraisa, right? So Bishas Malocha, they're considered as one body, whether for Tumah or for Hazah, which means, let's say the dead sheretz touched it when I was working with the scissors, one knife affects the other, Midoraisa, and also for Hazah. Yeah, let's say the guy is doing the Hazah, usually not always is a Kohen. The barber is working with the scissors, and right now the guy came to do Hazah. If it's more or less while you work, then one Hazah works for both. Makes sense. Because when you work with them, you want them to be one unit. You need one unit. Then the one unit, the scissors are together. However, now the scissors break. Now the barber went to sleep. He went to have his coffee. Right? When it is connected but doesn't have to be connected, right? Okay, it doesn't have to be connected because I'm not working right now. It just happens to lie in the corner of the barber store. They're not together. They're not considered as one at all. They're considered as two, even if they're attached, because I don't need them to be together. And therefore, for both Tumah and Tahara, they're considered as two. So now Rabbanon came with a gzera on both directions. It goes to Rabbanon al Tumah shelo b'shas melocho, mishum Tumah sheb'shas melocho. Rabbanon made the gzera, Tumah not b'shas melocho, although they don't have to be together, and one is not mitama the other. Rabbanon made a Tumah, a gzera, the one knife will be, one blade will be mitama the other, because they're concerned, otherwise you'll get confused Tumah b'shas melocho. If you view them as two separate kelim, one is not mitama the other, tomorrow, while your customer, you're cutting his hair, then you will think one is not mitama the other. That's bad, because it is mitama when they're working together. What about the other direction? Same thing, the other direction. Very good. When it comes to hazah, bisman that you're doing the malacha and pumped in the middle of the haircut, Mr. Mazeh, the guy with the Pora Aduma guy, comes and wants to do hazah, make your adin. Yes, one hazah will work for both. Hazah on one blade will work for the other. No, but where goes there? Because if you do one and you help the other, what happens when the scissors are out of order, not out, are out of work, right? Then what? You'll still think that hazah of one works for the other. That's not true. Because when they're together but not during work time, they don't have to be together, then hazah of the one doesn't work for the other. So we're goyzer that over the other. And yes, we were machmir both directions. Because you always have to be machmir, mechashash, that people will be makel b'tumah v'tara. And okay, that's it. Yes. Thank you for everybody to any time, and thank you for everybody here who listens from America, from Israel, and now Torten, YouTube. Thank you for everybody who watches us. Atzlacha bracha. Question time. Thank you, Tzvi, for being with us.